Hello, everybody. This is Steve Rao, the host of the Radio Nyra Leaders and Legends podcasting show, and we are honored today to have in studio one of the great leaders in North Carolina, Andy Andrews, who's also a great friend of mine. Andy, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Look forward to it.
We'll be here a very long time if we read Andy's resume, but Andy Andrews was a top tennis player in the men's tour. He was 37 in the world in singles, and 78 in singles, or top 70 in singles, and top doubles player in the world. You were a member of the North Carolina Tennis Hall of Fame, the Southern Tennis Hall of Fame, the first North Carolinian to be a board member of the United States Tennis Association, and today you're the executive chairman of Dominion Realty. You also give back a lot to the sport. We're going to talk about some really exciting stuff you're doing. And what were you ranked in the world? I got that wrong. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. That was a long time ago, Steve, so it's hard to remember that far back, actually. But in 1982, 83, I was 78 in the world in singles, and I was 37 in the world in doubles, but John Sadri and I were top 10 as a doubles team. So we had a great partnership, and it was, obviously an honor and a privilege and to be out there as a young kid traveling the world and playing tennis.
And that's a great segue to my first question. You played at the highest levels of the game in tennis, and then we're going to talk about kind of leadership and how you transitioned into your business career, and then a little time on the interview about what you're doing with the USTA, which is really exciting. But you got to the US Open doubles semifinals and the Australian Open doubles semifinals. You played almost every major number one great in the world. So tell me a little bit about what was it like competing at that level? How did you get to that level as a young boy training here in North Carolina? And then how does it shape your view of leadership, and particularly in business?
Well, let's go back. I'll try to answer them in the order that you asked. But obviously, I was just a kid at 9 years old playing tennis around Raleigh, North Carolina, and then I got a little better. So I was traveling around the United States playing, and I just fell in love with the game. Young kids, you have a dream. I had a dream of possibly playing in college, and I kind of chased that dream. And next thing you know, you're getting a little bigger, you're getting a little taller, you're working really hard. You just got to always have that dream that you're going to accomplish that dream, and I did. High school tennis, I grew really quick, so I was a little thin, and I made a great decision. And I was traveling all over the United States playing junior tennis, so I was competing against the best, and I was pretty good, but I wasn't great. And I get to college, and I put on a lot of weight, and I'm playing with the likes of a John Sadri, who was 14 in the world in the pros, and what a mentor, and some other great local guys, and I just got stronger and bigger and better. We won 2 ACC titles as a team, and I had I was named ACC top 50 player in the first 50 years of the ACC, won 5 ACC individual titles, and I just got really good as a sophomore, junior, and senior, and decided, just because I'd had a dream to maybe play all the Grand Slams, that, instead of going, and my dad wanted me to go to law school, and so instead of going to law school, I said, well, I'm going to try it for 2 years. What if I make it? And so we made a deal that I had to make top 100 in the world in 2 years or make $100,000. And 11 months after turning pro, I was 78 in the world. And so I was on my way, but, I wasn't that good. I just was a really good tennis player. I wasn't great. I lost to all the greats. And so, but I got to play all the Grand Slams in singles and doubles. And exactly. I won a bunch of pro titles. But in reality, it was just living a dream. Traveling around the world 42 weeks a year. Didn't speak with one language. We didn't have phones. We didn't have, they weren't the American movies. There wasn't very good food. And you're by yourself. I mean, my first paycheck at the US Open 3 months after college, I'm playing Yannick Noah. I lose in 5 sets on center court. And I lose in 5 sets. And my first paycheck was $274.
How much do they make today?
$120,000 to lose first round.
Oh my God! And $1 million to win the US Open.
$5 million to win the US Open.
$5 million.
$5 million. It was $100,000 back when I was playing.
Wow.
So just the fact that you got to go out there, and then my career, I wasn't that good again. I wasn't making a lot of money. and I broke my hand in playing tennis, and it never healed. Tore some tendons, and it never healed. And so my career was essentially over in 5 years. And so I got off the tour, and then taught some tennis, and then got a job, and just that's the way it all happened. And I was 27 years old starting over again. But it was the most fun. Just because I had a dream and everybody said you'll never make it, you can't do that, you're not good enough. I think you find out, that if you can try that hard to get that much better and push yourself, and then you can accomplish some of those goals, it gives you self-confidence, which is what it's all about,
right?
To go out and be good at whatever you do. And so I think that's where it all comes back to.
You played college tennis. You were an All-American NC State twice. You played with John Sodry, and you played all these number ones in the world.
Yep.
What did you learn from, you played Borg, you played McEnroe?
No, I played McEnroe, Lindell, and Borg had retired by the time I got out there. But I wish I'd have lost to him too. But what you learned, you played the greats, and what you learned.
What did you learn from that?
Well, I learned I wasn't that good, and that was number one. But I think to be out there, you also had a little sense of, hey, maybe he's going to have a bad day and I could beat him. But then in reality, they're so much better than you are. But what was fun was you were out there,
right.
So you got to go do it, and
right.
I think that gives you confidence that I'm doing this. I'm stepping on the Grand Slam courts. I'm playing all the Grand Slams, and that's the epitome of our game, is to play the Grand Slams. And so I was a kid from North Carolina that had no business getting out there, but you try really hard, you get better every day. And you get bigger and stronger, and the next thing you know, you too could do the same thing. Yeah. So it was just kind of it's full circle. I look back at it. If you think about it, I'm 67 now, so you look back at it in '81. Do the math. That's a long time ago, and so it's hard to remember.
We're all getting older, my friend.
We're all getting older, but for today's kids, it's possible.
Yeah.
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
And I know we got about 25 minutes. We want to make sure we're going through this, but before we get into your transition to business career, you and I we watched a little bit of the ACC. You're really close to Coach J.W. Eisenhower, who was like a father figure to you. He was your coach, and then NC State, the coach. How has the game changed today in college and the pro game?
Well, the pro game, there are a lot better athletes than they were back when I was playing. The ball's moving a lot quicker. The equipment's, the strings, the equipment, it's like golf. They're hitting the ball harder, faster, more spin. The court hadn't changed size, and it is just a different game. We used to serve in volley. We used to come and play the net a lot more than they do today, but I think the athletic ability is just a big gap
on both the women and the men's side.
Oh, both women and men. Women are playing some really good tennis, and it's exciting to watch them play too, because they're hitting the ball so much harder than they used to.
Who some of the greats on both sides, say men's and women's, Alcaraz, Sinner, who is it on the women's side?
Well, I think I think they're all pretty evenly matched, if you want to know the truth. On the women's side, the men, it's much more of a gap. Right. You had the big three, and now you got the big two, and there's this big gap between when you got from the big three. You had Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer, and then everybody else was fighting for 4th and 5th and 6th place. And you got that today. You might get somebody to upset them once in a while, but they're just better than everybody else. And back when I was playing, you had Lindell, and you had Connors, and you had McEnroe, and those were the top guys. And there was a gap after them too. So it's there were some great players, ranked 20 in the world. John Sadgerby was one of them. He was 14 in the world, and that's an amazing feat in itself. He was just a young kid from Charlotte, who's just trying really hard, goes to NC State, and we win the ACC when he's a senior and I'm a freshman.
He played McEnroe in one of the...
And the finals of NCAAs, he loses in 5 sets to McEnroe. It was one of the greatest matches of all time.
I know, it's hard to believe.
And then he lost to him 18 more times in a row.
This is amazing that you knew all these people. Well, you get back, you decide to go into a different direction. Talk to us a little bit about that transition and, where you are today as a business leader.
When I got back, I started in commercial real estate as a leasing agent, just leasing office space. And I just started putting in the time, the hours. Putting in the time in tennis was a lot harder than putting in the time at work. And so I just started learning, worked for a good company, gave me opportunities, and I just kept working really hard and learning. And at nights I was teaching tennis for 4 or 5 hours to make money, and did that for a while, and then started traveling, and I grew in that company. I worked there 19 years and stayed in touch with a lot of tennis people who were, still involved, and I just got really good at understanding the different aspects of real estate development. And so after being in that company 19 years, I made a decision to start my own company, Dominion Realty Partners, 20 years ago. And we just worked really hard and hopefully did good work for a bunch of large institutional equity partners. And we developed 85 projects around the Southeast, the Sun Belt, and got some good people working for us. It takes a team. But I'm still so involved with tennis, as a volunteer, and then the business side allows you to run into people because I'm still traveling a lot. But I decided I had the opportunity to give back to tennis, and I started taking the time to use what I learned playing professional. I'm a member of the Association of Tennis Professionals, which you have to be ranked in the top 100 in the world to do that. Then I got elected to the Southern Board of Directors, and then I got elected to the National Board of Directors, the only person from North Carolina to ever be on that board.
And then I think it's amazing, I'm actually going to call the News Observer and try to get an article written about this, but just the fact that we have a North Carolinian, a Raleigh native, that is I want to talk about real estate at the end, but I want to go into that as the next segue, and then ask some questions about leadership, so changing the direction.
Yeah,
talk to me about kind of like, what you're doing, what you did in the USTA to give back, and where that's going now.
Yeah, I think it's using your business knowledge, how you got to be successful in business, how you got to be successful in tennis. Tennis is such a problem-solving sport, and it makes you think outside the box. You can't do the same thing all the time, and you got to figure out how to beat the guy across the net from you if he's better than you are. You got to push yourself to the limits, and so there's nothing different than business. You're problem solving all the time, and I think what really excited me was I was at a stage in my career where my kids had grown up, I'd watched them in sports, and so I had some time on my hands to give back to the game, and the game meant so much to me. It allowed me to travel around the world 20 times to exceed my wildest imagination. So by giving back and using my knowledge in development, construction expertise, they had a big renovation plan for the U.S. Open about 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
And so I got involved with that, and we built the complex down in Orlando, the 100 courts down there, and we redid Cincinnati Stadium. But we did about $1 billion transformation back then when I was on the board. And we did that on time and on budget. And they asked me to come back and help them do we're doing $1 billion transformation of Arthur Ashe Stadium and building a player building up there right now. And it'll be completed in 27, 100% completed in 27, but I got back this morning from being up there. So it's just great.
It's $1 billion construction.
$1 billion.
Arthur Ashe, and if you're listening and you're watching this podcast, I mean, it's a huge stadium.
Yeah, it's a 30-year-old stadium that needed a retrofit, and it's getting it, and then we're building a new player building for the players only, and their trainers and their agents and their families to go and be a part of, so they have some alone time.
How much revenue does the U.S. Open bring in, ticket sales?
Well, it's all broken down in different avenues, and I'm not on the board
Hundreds
now.
Of millions, though.
It's a lot of money with TV rights and everything else. But we are the third most watched sport in the world, and a lot of our viewership comes from international. And so, all the money, we're a non-for-profit, so all the money we get in, we distribute back to grow the game in the United States.
And I'm going to send this guy's prison. I mean, it's like, the NFL commissioner saying, look, I want you to reconstruct some stadiums. I mean, he was asked by Brian Vahaley, the current CEO. Now, they just brought Craig Tiley in, who ran Tennis Australia.
That's right.
Who's now going to grow. So you feel good about the changes you were making?
Craig's a great friend of mine, and he was running Australia for a long time, and he wanted to come back sooner, but they made him tough for him to leave Australia, and so now he's back, and he starts in July, and Brian Haley's the chairman, and then Craig Tyler will be the CEO. He'll be running the day-to-day operations, and Brian Haley's a volunteer chairman.
Okay.
And so I'm a presidential appointee, head of major construction oversight, and my job is to keep the board abreast about what's going on and making sure we're hitting our dates and doing the right things. And so it's been a treat for me to be involved, and it's been a treat to give back to the game, and I'll continue to do so as long as I'm asked. So this is my second run at it, and it's been great.
Also I'm going to be working with them with abilities, special needs kids for tennis.
I'm on the board of the Abilities Tennis, and I'm on the board, first vice president of the Foundation of North Carolina. Yeah. I'm on the USDA National Foundation Advisory Board. And so just giving back to those less fortunate and the ones with disabilities, we're doing some amazing things with tennis and around the state of North Carolina and the nation.
Yeah, that's really great, and also supporting challenger events like at Cary Tennis Park, Pro Tennis, and
yes,
we've got about 7 minutes left, but we're gonna transition to leadership. What I would like to know is kind of like on this leader show, kind of dive in and talk a little bit about what is it in the story of your life from competitive tennis and individual sport. You also played doubles, team sport. You played on a college team. Do you think it's the combination of individual competitiveness where it's all or nothing and team that helped you in your business career?
I think it's hard to pinpoint one exact thing that takes you in the business career. I think being a part of a team is awesome, and those are some of the best memories of my tennis that I've ever had, is winning the ACC championship with those teams in those first 2 years of my college career. But I think the counting on yourself to compete as an individual helps you in business, because you got to compete, but you also got to strategize. So strategy in tennis is no different than strategy in business, and you got to ebb and flow as things go on, because there's no match that you play the same. There's not one tennis match that you played the same, and there's not one day in business that's going to be the same. So it's the same concept.
It's the same concept, and developing 2 or 3 weapons better than
problem
one.
solving.
You always told me that.
Yeah, you got to have 2 weapons, and you got to
defend your weaknesses.
Defend your weaknesses and perfect your strengths. You can't do everything, so you got to give people around you some confidence that they're doing a good job and they can help you be successful, and you can help them be successful and grow in the business. But it is certainly it certainly is a great life sport that teaches you a whole lot about life experiences.
And like Roger Federer said in his commitment speech, you agree with that? That a tennis champion is the one who knows how to master the tough moments.
Well, he was a tennis champion. I was a tennis participant and a tennis player, and fortunate to be out there. But I think the difference is on all the big points, the tennis champions play their best points. And the difference is they're better than you were or me. And so you get their best when you play the best on the big points. And they show up. And I played one of the best matches of my life in the second round of Wimbledon in singles. I was playing Tim Mayotte, and I didn't miss a ball, not one ball. It was 3 out of 5 sets, and I got beaten 3 straight sets. And I never get beaten 3 straight sets on grass courts because I had a big serve. And I got beat in 3 hours in 3 straight sets, and I played great tennis.
Yeah.
And I came off the court and I said to my coach, "Well, at least I know how good I am." Because you're not, just because you play good doesn't mean you're going to win.
Yeah,
another guy can play better than you.
Well,
so that happens a lot.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah, so anyway,
well, this is great. Last few minutes, is there we didn't have time to get into real estate. I might ask you one question on that, but who's one person in your life that had a real impact on you?
Well, obviously my parents. They had a great impact on me, giving me the ability to go out there and play tennis. And neither one of them played, but they supported me. JW taught me as a young kid, JW Eisenhower, who ended up being my coach at NC State. He had a great deal of impact on me. John Sadry taught me how to work as a freshman in college. He taught me the meaning of work, how to spell the letter W-O-R-K. Work. He got more out of me than I knew was physically possible. Yeah. And so I think you got to give those people credit in that time of your life that they played a big role. But you can't pinpoint just one thing happening. I think I made a decision to go to NC State out of high school, and it was the best decision I ever made. We hadn't won the ACC championship in 58 years my freshman year, and I hit the winning point to win the ACC championship as a freshman. And you'll never forget that for the rest of your life. And go Pack. And now my son's there as the head coach of the golf team.
Pro golf team, and he was a pro golfer. I mean, it's unbelievable. Well, we're running out of time. We're going to bring you back to talk about real estate, but you feel good about the region's future?
Well, I mean, we're just in a great place. The Sun Belt's in a great place. People moving here. You got people graduate college every year here. You've got, we got universities all over this great state, and they're graduating kids every year. And now they seem to be wanting to stay in North Carolina instead of leaving. And so that's just great job growth. Past COVID, it was a little slow to ramp up, but I think things are on the mend, and we're seeing a little more activity in all aspects of real estate.
In my final moment, like any advice you have to young people out there about the game of life, if they're young or they're listening and they want to be a leader,
Two things: don't ever forget your dreams. You got to have short-term goals. Don't make goals 10 years out, 20 years out. Make goals for like 3 years so they can be achievable. But you got to have some goals. And then also, don't ever say, woe is me, because bad things happen to all people. They happen to good people, and they are happening all the time. You have to overcome them. And you've got to believe in yourself, because when it comes down to it, your parents believe in you, your brothers and sisters believe in you, and your grandparents believe in you. But when it comes down to it, you got to believe in yourself. And you've got to make it happen.
Well, Andy Andrews, that you've heard it, one of the great leaders in our region. Stay proud to call him a friend. You've been listening to him on Leaders and Legends podcast. Thank you, friend.
Steve, glad to be here always.
We'll bring you back. It was a good show. And if you're interested in being on the show, just shoot me an email at sr@steverao.com. Give me a call. We screen our guests, but we got the best coming in. And we've gone over time. Thank you, Radio Nyra, for all that you do. And thank you for being on our show. 99.9 FM, HD4, 1490 AM, and 101.9 from Durham. Dial in and listen to the great programs. Thank you. Have a great day.
See you.